Welcome to the Lean Agile Procurement Stories, where we explore how to use lean and agile practices to enhance your procurement process. If you're looking to innovate in complex procurement, you're in the right place.
Hi, welcome to the series of Meet an LAP Trainer. My name's Simon Reindl, LAP board member, LAP trainer. LAP stands for Lean Agile Procurement, using the ideas of lean and agile to help get your procurement done more effectively. Today, we've got the good fortune to be talking with Ant Boobier. Ant, could you give us a quick spiel about yourself, mate?
Yeah, sure. Ant Boobier. I'm from Wellington, New Zealand. Lap trainer and coach. Probably been doing well. Crikey, I got in Agile. Do you want to know a little bit more about how I got into Agile?
Yeah. Give us a quick story.
Yeah. So I got into Agile back in probably when I left university. I ended up working for a startup, a telco.
Yep.
And we got into rapid applications development, DSDM, XP, probably in the late 90s. And then from there, got into Scrum early 2000s, and then came out to New Zealand about 16 years ago. Great place if you want to visit. And became a Agile trainer out here. Headed up Agile at B&Z for a while, and I've been working with Nomad 8 and a member of Nomad 8, who's a small boutique Agile consultancy and training company for about 11 years now, something like that. So loving it. I'm sure we're going to talk through, sort of running that through New Zealand and some of Australia.
So that's a wonderful segue. What got you into Lean Agile Procurement? What's your story there?
Yeah, well, actually, I got into Lean Agile Procurement. A friend of mine, it's called Sarah Blackie. She's a procurement specialist out here, and she gave me a call as she knew me as being an Agile coach, and we got talking. And she's got like that procurement expertise, and I've got the Agile and product and people geekery expertise, as I like to say or like to think. And we look to see how we can sort of join forces and how we could look to disrupt really procurement and bring Lean Agile Procurement out here. We brought Mirko out. He'd been out here before, ran some training with him, became a certified trainer. And then, been running training out here in New Zealand and sort of running Lean Agile Procurement, big run workshops out here and in Australia. So really a bit of gone into it through her, and we've been sort of trying to disrupt the market since then.
Roughly when was that?
Gosh, that must have been about 2 years ago now, 2.5 years ago, I would think. Yeah.
So it was like a natural synergy between a procurement expert and an agile expert, thinking, hang about, if we use some of these agile skills and techniques, we can smooth some of the rough edges out of the procurement process.
Absolutely right. And I think, one thing I am doing, and I'll probably drop in as well, is I'm doing a postgrad in psychology. And one of the things that I note around is that kind of expertise fallacy, where just because you're an expert in one field doesn't mean you're an expert in another, right? In field number B or letter B, sorry. So, she's an expert in procurement, and with my expertise coming from the agile and kind of people side, we can really combine and look for that context. And it's a real buzz, right? It's a sort of buzz that I got from kind of get involved with Agile in the early days, when I think then where we're sort of, you're learning as you go through, you're finding different markets, and you're really focusing on the context of the environment rather than just following a methodology and following a process. High energy.
Yeah, that's a wonderful insight. As we're recording this, we're at the start of 25, and there's a lot of noise out there about agile. And I think it's become universally accepted that agile does work. However, it doesn't when it's formulaic, right? It doesn't work when it's cookie cutter or following a pattern. It's not, in my experience, the best of
Yeah,
it is when people are given, that freedom to just get stuff done. And,
absolutely, Simon. Yeah, yeah.
you know,
Look, totally agree. I think you're totally right. Yeah.
and that's what we're trying to bring into the procurement space. And you've had some real successes, haven't you?
Yeah, look, we've been fortunate that we've been able to work with some pretty big organisations out here. We've done some work with ANZ and a few others, and we've been running some big lap, big run workshops out here. And that's been great, right? And typically people will bring us in because there's a time constraint, and there's a looking for us to think about how we can do things more effectively. I love the way that you sort of focus on that effectiveness earlier in your intro, and also that efficiency as well. And you're right. Often when we come in, they think about, well, teach us about the lap methodology, a bit like when people think about the agile methodology, and it's about, well, that doesn't exist, right? It's a set of steps, and it's about practices and how we apply those practices to your environment. Obviously, people need something to hang on to, and you've got things like the canvas, good practice, good rules of thumb that you apply. But again, every context is slightly different, and it's about giving them the confidence as you go through that. We're working on this to achieve a particular outcome, to achieve a particular goal. But at any step, what we could say, actually, this isn't right. We can sort of drop out here and go into perhaps a more traditional approach. So again, it's about giving them the confidence that, yes, we've got this. Yes, we've done this. Yes, we know what steps to go through and how we're going to work with you collaboratively to achieve these things. But also that if we go through step one, if it goes through step two, we've done the canvas, we've thought about, what exactly you want to achieve. You haven't got to continue with the further steps. We could drop out and do something else. So it's really about giving them that confidence and making sure that you apply it to the context of their environment and make sure that they, as procurement specialists, feel like experts, and you're not just going there and telling them what to do and how to do it.
So what I'm hearing is that you're leveraging your people skills and the framework to help them apply their procurement skills to their problem.
Hey,
And
you said it a lot more succinctly than me.
and it's easier to play it back. That's the wonderful thing about coaching. When a coach summarizes it, you're like, you've nailed it. And I'm like, yeah, I've just told you what you told me. I love Dave Snowden of Kinevin Frame. He's got a great thing. He loves the term direction of travel. I think it's because he's massive into hill walking and mountain climbing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, hill walking now that he's getting on. And it's that direction of travel, because if you hit an obstacle or something doesn't work out right, it might look beautiful on a map, but then the bridge is out or, something's there that we have to go around it. We have to have that comfort and freedom to just, okay, we'll work our way around it. We still know where we want to go, but we don't need to be bloody minded about it. It's not just a dogmatic, oh, here's the process, tuck, 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 we'll get there. It's here's some practices, here's some techniques, here's all of your wealth of industrial expertise and your discipline expertise, and we'll get a solution. It reminds me when I was working with oil and gas. I don't know oil and gas, but using processes and techniques, I was able to help them use the frameworks to find solutions in a more effective way.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think it's about creating that container, and as agile coaches, I say we're geeks, we're people geeks, and we're trying to create that container in which people can flourish, where people feel confident that there is some set boundaries, even if it's step by step. Are we making progress towards that goal? Is it better than it was a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month ago, and it's all about, are we achieving, to me, Agile is all about, are we achieving greater outcomes with highly engaged teams? And to make sure you've got those highly engaged teams and you've got that confidence, you've got to create those boundaries and those constraints, even if it's in a small workshop, right? That people feel confident that they can bring their best and their expertise, and they know that actually the process, as the lab coach, you understand the process, you've got the process, you've done it before, and that it's okay that that they've got the flexibility and expertise to tweak things within those constraints itself. So absolutely, I think it's all about the classic things that we do as agile coaches: that facilitation, that coaching, that support, that understanding of frameworks and methodologies and patterns and what works and what doesn't when, and giving people confidence, but also giving people the flexibility to just bring their expertise and know that they are the expertise and the experts in their field, and they can bring their best.
And that helps us get stuff done. And
Absolutely.
I think that's, whilst we're holding the space and we're encouraging people to explore and lean in, we're constantly going, yeah, but we need to make it better. It's got to be better than when we started, and we've got to manage the risk, and we can show to the stakeholders, look, we are thinking about risk by delivery.
Yeah.
Now, look here, we're making incremental progress towards success.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
bringing that into the big room scenario, how have you found it when you've got multiple partners who are all looking to work together, when they start sharing their canvas and talking to each other? Because I often hear from clients, from potential customers, from people who want to use it, they're very scared about the whole idea of multiple people coming together looking to secure a contract, actually sharing how they're going to approach it and sharing their canvas with effectively competitors.
Yeah.
How's that worked out for you?
I think, the first thing in those things is great. The whole thing about the big room workshop is the energy, right? And it should be high energy. It should be fun. And the ones that we've run, they've been fun. They've been high energy. People have had a smile on their face. But I think the other thing as well is you've always got to be thinking about, how can we get all these people in the same room together? What can we share? Are there things that actually, given the context of the size of the thing, that we can't share? And a couple of ones we've done, actually, they've been really big, right? And we're talking across 27 countries, 10,000 sort of users, this sort of thing. So big contracts where actually we made a decision that actually for some of those, we're not going to have all those people in the same room at the same time. For some of their pitches, they're going to do it privately. Obviously, the commercial stuff is private, but some of the other stuff as well, to give them the confidence and make sure we can have some of those open conversations. We're going to have a couple of those stories and those sessions that we play back, just the suppliers and the client in there. And the reason for that was the size of it, and to basically give the suppliers the confidence that they could bring that IP, because it was quite a close-knit community, and could put their best foot forward. Yes, there was another one where we looked to try and bring them all together to see how they interacted. But I think it's about being pragmatic about it, right? It's about, well, this is what you go in with. This is what the big room workshop is all about. This is the intent. But you know what? If you can't do that, what can you do? What can you push? What can you achieve? And what makes sense given the size of the contracts? The sort of thing that you're bringing in, and the client as well. Context is key, right? And just because you can't have everybody in the same room at the same time for everything, it doesn't mean that you can't bring those principles, those steps, and that ethos of the big room workshop and the lap approach to it.
I'm hearing the art of the possible. I've just got a picture of Ken Schwaber in my head, smiling at me and just going, look for the art of the possible.
Yeah.
don't be dogmatic about this. Like,
Yeah,
what's the smallest thing you can do to make it better? And
yeah,
so,
absolutely. What can we do? You know,
what can we do? So, we need to build the trust. We need to
yep,
build the trust with the company. We need to build the trust and the confidence to suppliers that they're not going to get harmed, right? So that
absolutely. Yeah,
this big
absolutely.
agile thing of do no harm, make it safe
Yeah,
so that people can bring their best and collectively solve the problem.
yeah, absolutely. You're spot on, right? And the last thing you want is three suppliers all being in the same room at the same time, pitching, but holding back because they don't want to. And I know that that's not the intent of what you want at all, right? But you want to be making sure that that supplier can put their best foot forward. They're confident, and you're creating a safe space. You're creating a safe space where everyone can just bring their best, and you can create the best possible proposal together, right? I mean, and that's the fundamental reason why we're doing this stuff, right?
Yeah, and you just reminded me. There's a couple of instances where I think Mirko's seen it, Sophie's seen it, Ivan's seen it, where you get collaborations occur during the big room planning, where two suppliers get together and go, "Do you know what? If we join forces, we'd get an even stronger proposal." And you get these collaborations formed on the fly, which is beautiful, right? Because they realize that there's working together, it'll be stronger.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's all sorts of procurement rule you need to be careful of, but absolutely right. Often the question we get from suppliers is, well, um, could this be done by two suppliers or more suppliers, or what if we all get a part of it? So again, you've got to work within that. Obviously procurement, and this is one of the reasons why I work with procurement people, is you've got the constraints of procurement rules and sort of probity and all those different things. And interesting, right? One of the things that we always have is, especially for the big ones, is we've had a third party probity person along, just to make sure everything's fair and that the suppliers feel comfortable and confident, and anything's raised there that can be raised, and it's not, things aren't left to the end. They're dealt with there and then, and everything's fair. And really you've got an umpire, I guess, making sure that all those suppliers can put their best foot forward.
so I'm loving you emphasize that probity and trust aspect, and that you can be even more compliant with this process because of the big room nature of it, because of the trust and the transparency. So building on that whole agile trilogy of transparency, inspection, adaptation, questions get answered more quickly because everyone's in the room.
Yeah,
So we don't have that, questions must be submitted by date X and they'll be responded to by date Y. Everyone's in the room, everyone hears the same thing. Having that invigilation from a probity expert, that's a great innovation. Because then, like, if things get legal, and they could do, because we're talking big contracts here, right?
yeah, yeah,
You're demonstrating due diligence, and you've got that invigilation, the umpire in the room, just to say, hang on, that's a boundary, there's a line. So you could even invite a regulator in. So if you're in a really heavily regulated industry, having a regulator in the room is completely open as well, right?
yep, absolutely right. Absolutely. And I think it's interesting because my role within those is to facilitate support. Typically, I get the client to lead it, just because, look, it's their lab process, it's the service or product that they're looking to purchase. It's them who should be leading the thing, and I'm supporting them and coaching them to do that. But a lot of the time when I'm facilitating and coaching in there, I'm always cognizant that I'm there to support the client, but there to support the suppliers as well. And actually, most of my time is spent supporting the suppliers, getting them from A to B, making sure they've got everything they need. Making sure they've got the confidence to put their best foot forward. And I think that's important, right? It's not just the client that's in that room purchasing something; it's the suppliers, and they want to go away with a good feeling as well, right? That they actually, no one wants to not win a procurement, but actually they should be going away with a good feeling about it, that actually they haven't got people sitting around on a bench for months. They haven't got to write huge, RFPs and documents and go through a 6 to 12-month process, not knowing whether they're going to win something or not. It should be quick decisions, quick feedback, and allowing them to put their best forward and innovate, right? And bring their people to it. Yeah.
And that's a really important point you're bringing up. It often saves money for the potential partners, the suppliers, because they don't have to have that long amount of time, and there is an investment up front. They do need to prepare for the big room. They need to have the right people available. However, due to the rapidity of the process and having an answer at the end of big room planning, that canvas is the framework for the contract that the legals can then go and build on.
Yeah.
You're saving a lot of money, and you're getting faster feedback as well. And it is transparent feedback because it's in the room. You're seeing what's going on, and there's clarity. So that's something I've seen multiple times where suppliers appreciate the process because they're not holding up their people. They're not reserving capacity for a potential gig that they've got to be available to drop everything and start, and having those people sitting around for a few months as they're waiting for an answer, waiting for the shoe to drop.
Absolutely. And I think that's really important, from the commercials and the negotiation perspective as well. The client's got that leverage, but also the suppliers can think on their feet and think differently in terms of how they might approach things. They get that rapid feedback from, about the product and the service, but also about the commercials as well. So they can think about, well, how can we change this? What could we do differently? And again, that enables them to put their best foot forward. So look, it should be about a win-win, right? And I have found that where, it's hard. It's really hard, those big room workshops, right? But they are a buzz. They're fun. There's lots of energy. There's lots of shared spaces. It's it's great. I love them, right? It's interesting because most of my effort and work goes up to getting to that point of the big room workshop. And then for me, actually, the big room workshop, the onus is really on the evaluators, and the suppliers themselves and the commercial people. My role is relatively low key on those, right? Unless things can go wrong, it's just making sure people are in the right place at the right time. Things are clicking over. And we're sort of making progress towards that goal. But yeah, most of that effort really goes into that point, which is really, really focused and concentrated.
So what I just heard you say is that the investment in preparing for the big room workshop is essential for a constructive outcome from it, because the more putting an appropriate level of prep into that means that people walk into the room prepared, and because they're prepared, they're relaxed, and because they're relaxed, they're more trusting, which means you can have more fun, have the conversation. And so classic facilitation, you've got to get it all ready so that when people walk in the room, it then just flows.
Absolutely right. Absolutely. I mean, the key, that's the preparation is the absolute key there, right? There's a lot of focused effort from the client, a lot of facilitated workshops, and myself as a coach up until that point, to make sure we've got all the collateral we need, we're aligned internally, we know how we're going to evaluate the things, we know how we're going to run an event, and then the actual, never underestimate the actual location itself.
Talk to me more about that. What's a good location?
So venue wise, typically I prefer a neutral venue, and I prefer a neutral venue because then it's neutral for the client and it's neutral for the suppliers as well, and it helps people relax a little bit more. Again, simple things like Wi-Fi, plenty of whiteboard space, plenty of room for people to move about, not too hot, separate breakout rooms. If it's a big contract, then separate rooms or separate areas and breakout areas for the suppliers as well. It's got to be a good location, right? A good location that everyone can get to. Plenty of breakout spaces, plenty of whiteboard space, and a separate area where you can, you can have lunch and food. Don't underestimate that sort of thing. A lot of conversations go on over there, and a lot of collaboration and just kind of getting to know each other, right? And helping people relax over a coffee, over some food. And make it more personable, right? So it doesn't feel like a panel interview. It feels like it feels two-way, and it feels like the supplier's there asking information, getting feedback, rather than just imparting information on a sort of a panel interview.
So very much a we as opposed to an us and them environment, right?
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. Very much a we, and yeah, very much so.
So if we can find a space, it's those little things. It's like I've always said with training courses that your location and catering won't make your course, but they can break your course. And it's the same with your workshop or your facilitated event. If you can't go to the toilet, if the coffee is rubbish, or there is no tea, or lunch is rubbish, everyone's mood just dips because we're human.
Yeah, and you always get, you're a trainer, right? You always get feedback on a feedback form about the food, if it was great, or the food if it wasn't so great, or the tea or lack of tea or coffee. So yeah, all those things help lift and help the energy, right? Help with the energy.
And like you say, there's so many really important conversations happen during the breaks, and that's one of the things I desperately miss about face-to-face training. You don't have in virtual training is those side conversations over a brew where people can connect as people and just continue on a discussion and follow a thread.
Yeah, and that's so important, right? You got to remember that they aren't suppliers. These are people. These are humans. These are people who are turning up. They're nervous. Often this is the first time they've been through this process, so it's giving them the confidence. Just talking them through, making sure that they're comfortable with how it's running and everything like that. So again, it's the venue is absolutely key, but again, there's no one right venue. There's patterns and there's things, but again, it's context specific. You've got to think about the size, your budget, right? And all these things really come into play. But it's just about making sure that you create as good an environment as you possibly can. You prep everything up, beforehand, so you're not keeping people waiting. You can get straight into things. And if you're prepared and you're confident, then that kind of imparts onto others as well and gives them the confidence that you got this, and they can relax and just do their own thing.
Yeah, so you're giving them that surety that it's a controlled process.
Absolutely.
So that takes us through the workshop. What's post workshop? What do your clients think about that? How does that work out? What's your client's opinion of that post workshop phase?
So post workshop, I tend to get slightly less involved with, to be honest, because that's more procurement, that's more commercials and things like that. Feedback has always been really positive, and good in terms of the buzz of the days, the decisions being made. We've run retrospectives on those as well, in terms of would people run them again, and indeed we have run them again for an organization as well. So people have come back great, but typically the retros come back with basically the high buzz of the thing, right? The sort of the energy, and I keep coming back to that word, right? But it is absolutely key, that engagement, that energy, that decision making, and that fun, right? People want to do it again because it is fun, and that's what work should be, right? It should be about yes, it should be about getting great outcomes, but great outcomes in a fun, engaging, high energy way, right? Where you can get the best out of people.
Well, there's so much science behind that. When people are engaged and enjoying it, their work output, their ability to think, their creativity is much higher. And
Yeah,
I think this is essential to helping people get the best out of work as well. So it's a
absolutely.
worthwhile return on investment for organizations, because
Yeah,
if folks can relax and smile and have a bit of a laugh, they will
yeah,
be more productive. And from an engineering perspective, I liked it most when I was delivering stuff. And so
yeah,
it's the same for procurement people, for lawyers, for all of these commercial folks. They like finishing things, getting the contract signed, completing the procurement piece, solving a problem. That's what people love. That's why they take these tricky knowledge-based tasks. And because they're often intangible, to see something occur so rapidly gives them a real buzz,
yeah,
because they're solving a really tricky problem quickly.
yeah. And that's the key, right? You're having fun, but you're having fun for a purpose, for a real purpose. You're looking to achieve that outcome, and you're engaging people to achieve that outcome. And those things feed each other, right? If you're achieving outcomes, then people are getting more engaged, and people are getting more engaged. They want to achieve that outcome together. So it feeds each other, right?
Yeah.
Which is great to see.
So where do you think this is all going? What's your view of the future of lean agile procurement and what we're doing?
Well, do you know what? It's becoming very popular down here in New Zealand. And government are using it as well, which is always the telltale sign, where they're picking it up, and talking to lots of people in government. um, Things are picking up, and we run bits with Australia as well. And I think it's becoming, I wouldn't say mainstream, but there's an awareness of it, right? People are thinking about how can we do things differently, and it's right. The reason that generally we get involved or people come to us is that time. It's that there's a time constraint. What, we need to get something done by this date.
Yeah.
Can you help us? We're kind of stuck. um, and I think, while there are much more benefits than that, you and I know that, right? About that whole engagement, about that whole, collaboration to ensure we get the best possible proposal. Um, there are time pressures from a lot of organisations at the moment. That with the economies the way they are, and what have you. So people are under pressure from an efficiency perspective. But I think then, by running this process, you can show that it's efficient, but it's effective as well. And the main focus is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
effectiveness. And by doing that, and by doing it for large projects and large pieces of work, people will start to see the benefits about running it for more and more, for more organizations. So I think the future's bright. I think it's about ensuring that you know um, we keep it as context is key, that it's not a methodology, that it's not, you need to do these steps and tick these boxes. It is very much dependent in terms of the organization, the size of the service or product you're after, and a whole host of other things as well. But I think the future is really, really bright. I think the future is really bright.
So there's lots of opportunity for it. It's really important that it's used appropriately so that it
Yeah,
doesn't become, it's almost where it's affected other aspects of organizations, where it's de rigueur, you have to do everything in Scrum or Kanban or what have you, without even thinking about, is this the appropriate tool for the job? So
absolutely.
getting people to be where we're in that early awareness phase of, hey, there's another way of solving complex procurement problems, and this is an approach that can work. It can really flourish there. And if you're under pressure to solve something quickly, it will also save you money. And business is about time and money. And it helps manage the risk, helps get you to an answer faster, helps save money because that cost of delay is reduced. And it enables that de-risking by working with suppliers in a control process. And then the more you do it, better you get at it. And it also sets your teams up. Like if you're, by doing this, going forward, you can use agile approaches to deliver because you've used it to procure.
Yeah.
And so you've set those preconditions for success up.
Yeah. And I think something you touched on there, and I think it's about one of the big benefits is internal alignment within an organization. So the benefit there is it's not a black box. You're not giving it to a couple of procurement people to go away and fill in some sort of write a huge document and take it out and then hopefully everything's going to be all right. It's very transparent. It's very open, and you can involve people along the way, and you should be involving people along the way, right? And especially in the big run workshop as well, where the canvas is there for brevity to share with others, the stories, scripts, whatever you're using, use cases, again, not being dogmatic, don't care really, providing you've got something which has got a key outcome. All these things are there to ensure you've got that internal alignment, different specializations from within the organization, so they all feel bought in. So not one or two people purchasing something for others to then have to go, why have we got this? Why are we implementing this? It's the whole, it's a cross-functional, internally aligned part of the organization working together in a very focused way to achieve that outcome, with suppliers, with partners. So I think that's really, really important, that you're really setting off on the right track, right? You're really focusing parts of the organization to ensure that whatever you're going to do, the service, the product is going to be accepted by areas of the organization. They've seen it, they've had input into it, and you've made decisions along the way based on their input, and then they're going to be much more accepting when you're looking to implement that thing later on. They're not being changed and done to, right? They're part of that change and they're part of that process.
Is a wonderful catchphrase I like to use, and it's the principle of least surprise.
Yep.
So no one's getting ambushed, no one's getting surprised. You're engaging with people early so that we're all aligned.
Yep.
We're working together, so we're working with to deliver something better for the business. And it's lifting our heads up so that we're all working for an organization, delivering organizational strategic goals, delivering products and services in collaboration with partners. That this is the whole idea of ecosystems. When we take Lean Agile Procurement above this, if we have an agile rainforest where all of our suppliers, partners are collaborating together in that beautiful way that rainforests work, we're all winning. We're all thriving.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely right. And that as a facilitator, you get this right. It doesn't mean that you're ending up with what do they say? Like the camel created by a committee. Yes, there's going to be decisions made by that group along the way where there's consent that actually, we can't do that, or we're not going to do this. But at least people see the decisions and are part of that decision, that the consent without objections of that decision making as we go through, to get that best possible solution. But you're right, it's part of an ecosystem. We need to accept that, and we need to involve people as part of that ecosystem along the way. Not just give it to a few people. Make sure we involve those people along the way, and keep it very visual and very, very open.
Keep it transparent. Get stuff done.
Absolutely.
Awesome. I think that sort of brings us to the end of our conversation naturally there. And how do people get a hold of you?
So you can get hold of me through the LAP Alliance, or drop me an email, anthony@nominate.com, or if you're in Wellington, come by, drop me a line. But get me through the LAP Alliance. That's probably those, or LinkedIn.
So we'll put all those links there. So you've got your LAP Alliance profile. Your course will be up there. Your LinkedIn profile, and your Nomad 8 email address.
Yeah. And key thing I say is just give it a go, right? Give it a try, give it a go. The good thing about having a coach or somebody who's done it before is it gives you that confidence. But they're there to support you, and ultimately, they're there working with you because you're the best person who knows the context of your environment and the constraints within your environment, right? It should be a collaborative approach with your lab coach.
Yeah, brilliant. Awesome. Thank you very much for your time today. And
Hey, thanks.
look out for the next one of these. We'll be talking with more LAP trainers, and they'll be sharing their stories. Please pop your questions, get in touch if you've got any other questions or any other thoughts or topics you'd like us to talk about. Have a great day. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening to Lean Agile Procurement Stories. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share. We'll be back soon with another story to inspire your innovations with procurement.